21.6.1 Eye. Our paired eyes are located in sockets of the skull called orbits. A brief account of structure and functions of the human eye is given in the following section. 21.6.1.1 Parts of an eye. The adult human eyeball is nearly a spherical structure. The wall of the eyeballs is composed of three layers. Figure 21.6. The external layer is composed of a dense connective tissue and is called the sclera. The anterior portion of this layer is called the cornea. The middle layer, choroid, contains many blood vessels and look bluish in color. The choroid layer is thin over the posterior two-thirds of the eyeball, but it becomes thick in the interior part to form the ciliary body. The ciliary body itself continues forward to form a pigmented and opaque structure called the iris, which is the visible colored portion of the eye. The eyeball contains a transparent crystalline lens, which is held in place by ligaments attached to the ciliary body. In front of the lens, the aperture surrounded by the iris is called the pupil. The diameter of the pupil is regulated by the muscle fibers of iris. The inner layer is the retina, and it contains three layers of neural cells from inside to outside: ganglion cells, bipolar cells, and photoreceptor cells. There are two types of photoreceptor cells, namely rods and cones. These cells contain the light-sensitive proteins called the photopigments. The daylight, photopic, vision, and the color vision are functions of the cones, and the twilight, scotopic, vision is the function of the rods. The rods contains a purplish red protein called the rhodopsin or visual purple, which contains a derivative of vitamin A. In the human eye, there are three types of cones which possess their own characteristic photopigments that respond to red, green, and blue lights. The sensation of different colors are produced by various combinations of these cones and their photopigments. When these cones are stimulated equally, a sensation of white light is produced. The optic nerves leave the eye and the retinal blood vessels enter it at a point medial to and slightly above the posterior pole of the eyeball. Photoreceptor cells are not present in that region, and hence it is called a blind spot. At the posterior pole of the eye, lateral to the blind spot, there is a yellowish pigmented spot called macula lutea with a central pit called the fovea. The fovea is a thinned out portion of the retina where only cones are densely packed. It is the point where the visual acuity resolution is the greatest. The space between the cornea and the lens is called the aqueous chamber and contains a thin watery fluid called aqueous humor. The space between the lens and the retina is called the vitreous chamber and is filled with a transparent gel called vitreous humor. 21.6.1.2 Mechanism of vision. The light rays in visible wavelength focused on the retina through the cornea and lenses generate potential impulses in rods and cones. As mentioned earlier, the photosensitive compounds, photopigments, in the human eyes is composed of opsin, a protein, and retinal, an aldehyde of vitamin A. Light induces dissociation of the retinal from opsin, resulting in change in structure of the opsin. This causes membrane permeability change. As a result, potential differences are generated in the photoreceptor cells. This produces a signal that generates action potential in the ganglion cells through the bipolar cell. These action potential impulses are transmitted by the optic nerve to the visual cortex area of the brain, where the neural impulses are analyzed and the image formed on the retina is recognized based on earlier memory and experience.